Hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
It's our 38th
Q&A.
Q&A installment. So, sorry it's so delayed. It got delayed this time, but we're back. First question comes from Mario.
Hi, Mario.
Hey. Hi, Daniel and AKI. What does the Researchers of Truth think about the slaughtering of the red heifer in Israel? Is it symbolic in a way, or is it triggering an event for the return of Christ or elevation of our consciousness? What do you think? Is it important to Christians at all? Apparently the red heifer was used to purify people from sins and idols. Not sure what that means. Maybe karmic elementals are required payment for sin, etc. Apparently the red heifer was slaughtered and burnt for ashes before the temple sacrifices would commence. And there was only 9 times that Israel slaughtered the red heifer in their 1500-year history until 70 AD, when the temple was destroyed and dismantled. Rabbis recorded that the mystery of the wood turning white stopped after Christ. And yes, I understand that praying to Christ replaces the need for the sacrifice of the lamb on the tabernacle. Maybe there's a parable there. Yeah, there's a lot of talk about the red heifer now because for the first time in a long time, they brought red heifers to Israel to slaughter them to create ashes for the foundation of the new temple. It has to have a red heifer's ashes according to the tradition. Now, the red heifer's ashes was used in past times for, if you touched a dead body, you needed to wash your hands with the ashes of the red heifer. They thought it purified, so it's a symbol of purification. But most importantly in this context, they have brought them from Texas this time to Israel to sacrifice them before the building of the third temple, the rebuilding of the temple, which is to coincide with the return of Christ. So that's the main symbology about it. I don't think it triggers the event. It's just everything leads up to this event. But the building of the third temple, the rebuilding of the temple for the third time, was what this is about. You have something?
Oh, that's all?
That's all, yeah.
Oh,
You got a lot, I know.
I think, he's asking about the, elevation of the consciousness.
Well, like I said, it's just the return of Christ, which, the second coming of Christ. Sure, that would elevate our consciousness, but it's primarily for the building of the third temple so Christ can come. Now, the sacrifice was stopped when Christ came. When he incarnated, he said, I am the sacrifice. No need for sacrificing animals anymore. I am your sacrifice. But the Jews still want to go to their old tradition, and so that's why they're talking about slaughtering these red heifers for the rebuilding of the temple.
Okay, then I'll take over. Yes, actually, what they are doing is literally doing exactly the same way what it says in Bible, Old Testament. But actually, we can read and understand the Bible in many layers in depth. So, on the material level, they are doing as it says literally in Bible. But we can understand as a researcher of truth, we can understand the meaning, what it says in Bible deeper way, and in many layers, as I say. And when we see kind of blood or flesh or something, it looks like it sounds very cruel, but when Christ says blood or flesh, that means, that symbolizes the substance which is to be the blood and flesh, which means etheric vitality. So when you read, not everything, but when you read the Bible to understand deeper way, when you see blood or flesh things, it's not just simply kind of cruel meaning to slaughter or kill and things like that. Not things like that. It represents and symbolizes the etheric vitality, which is the substance to become blood and the flesh. And furthermore, the meaning of cross has many. We have many meaning in the. How can I say? There are many meanings in the symbol of the cross, and one of it is symbolizing 4 elements. But another meaning, different meaning of the cross is crucifixion. Crucifixion. Crucifixion means sacrifice. So, and this sacrifice means like our divine self, our real self, in absolute harmony, as entering into the world of existence, which is the world of duality and which is the world of time and space. So the cross means, crucifixion means like we are entering into, as a divine self, entering into crucifying, sacrificing our divine self into the world of duality. And vice versa, when in the world of duality, in the world of existence, when we balance all of them, then we return back to absolute harmony, divine state, getting rid of all bodies like material bodies, psychical body, and noetical body, which means also sacrificing all of them and go back, enter back into the absolute harmony, divine state. So the symbol of the cross means also the symbol of the cross has the meaning of sacrificing something, sacrifice. So please read the Bibles through this understanding, through this knowledge, to have a deeper understanding. This is my advice. And of course, in our teaching, we don't need a sacrifice. We don't need any kind of bloodshed to make something possible. We never do that. I have another thing to say. Also, the meaning of the sacrifice of lamb. Most of us wonder what it really means. But this is more relating to the evolution of our planet Earth, because our planet Earth is influenced by other planetary systems through the sun. We are in how do you say? I can't find the English word. The sun, planetary system, no?
Solar system.
Solar system. Yeah, Taiyoke, solar system. But we are also receiving much energy to create this planet Earth and maintain this planet Earth, and also evolving and developing this planet Earth constantly, every time, every moment. we have been receiving the energy from other planetary system and more. Without this power, nothing happened on this planet. Like this way, the meaning of the word as a sacrifice of Ram is relating to this energetical influences in a bigger scale, including all star systems. So let's study deeper and read the Bible in a deeper way.
When Christ came, he said, it's not sacrifice I want, it's mercy. So if there's a sense that we're sacrificing for someone else or something like that, that's egoism. What we're doing and what he did, they call him the sacrificial lamb, but really he did it out of mercy. He didn't feel like, oh, I'm sacrificing myself for these poor lost ones on the earth. No, he did it out of mercy. And there is a sense, a lot of people talk about sacrifice, but we don't want to do sacrifice, a sense of sacrifice, because it just builds egotism. Oh, I'm sacrificing for some greater good. That's egoism. And the other element is, in truth, what we sacrifice, it's nothing good. We only sacrifice our weaknesses, our misunderstandings, our illusions. So that's what gets sacrificed in the first crucifixion. Now, Jabulo is asking,
Hi, Jabulo.
did Daskalos ever teach about what happened to the other disciples? I'm aware of the Apostle John's role in the Researchers of Truth system, but what of the other disciples? Are they part of the same system, or are they elsewhere? Well, of course, they're part of the same system because it's through Christ. What Daskalos did say, and he tried to trace the disciples, what happened to them after the crucifixion and that time in Israel, and what they're doing now. And I remember in 1990, I think it was, he announced that 2 disciples were still in incarnation on earth. The one was Judas. The other one I don't think he ever mentioned. He did say the only one he couldn't find was Philip. Philip was a great mystic. He's the one that has the out-of-body experience and teaches the chariot driver for the Queen of Ethiopia. But he comes out of his body and he leaves his body after he's done teaching this fellow. In it didn't say, exmatosis or out-of-body experience. It called it, he was taken on the Spirit of God. That's the way they used to talk about it then. But clearly, he was the super advanced one of the most advanced ones. And Daskal said he never could find what happened to him. The others, we seem to know pretty much what happened, like John on Patmos that you just mentioned. And also the others end up getting killed or crucified in some way or the other. But in 1990, there were 2 on earth, and one of them was Judas. And he's passed over since then. But I think this was a real big lifetime for him. I think he kind of offset the scales of karma in this lifetime. Anyway, that's what he said about it. And you want to do that before we do this next question?
Maybe St. Paul? Did you read?
Well, St. Paul didn't meet Christ, but he was a disciple, obviously, wrote a lot of the New Testament.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He says 12 disciples.
Yeah,
okay, got it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But just because she brought up St. Paul, yeah, he's definitely part of our system. And he's one of the masters in this system that helps carry forward the Researchers of Truth. In this lifetime, when he was alive on earth, in Daskalos' lifetime, St. Paul was called Hilarion. It's still called Hilarion. There's a lot of people who claim they're channeling Hilarion. To what degree, that's a different matter. But he does do a planetary influence. He tries to help people, and anyone following in this system gets a lot of help, for sure. Good.
So he mentions
just the disciples, yeah.
the 12 disciples. Okay. For your first question, Jabro, it might not answer to your question, but I see 12 disciples. Daniel explained about some of the disciples and the incarnation afterward, reincarnation afterward. But I see 12 disciples. Of course, they were existing in this dimension, and they reincarnated as the other personality, as he explained a little bit. But I see 12 disciples is more like energy, as I explained for the first question, energy from the 12 directions, our material body, or psychical body, noetical body, and the higher, and also our planet, and everything existing in here now is created and maintained and composed of those 12 forces. And we study deeper in the seminar, but this 12 has the meaning, the divine three divine natures, and also 4 directions as cross to manifest this divine nature in the world of existence. That's why for like 12 months in a year, 12 hours in a day, like 12 disciples, in the Christ is in the middle. The 12 zodiac signs. Likewise, we can't deny this power from other star systems through sun in the solar system. So I understand 12 disciples like that way. It might hit your question, but this is my answer for your question now.
You see, after Christ left and he sent the Holy Spirit, the disciples experienced what they call Pentecost, where the flame was in front of their foreheads and they could speak to everybody perfectly. Understand that was a marking of them starting on the super consciousness phase of consciousness, which has many, many, many levels. So they're still working on that phase right now in existence before passing to self-super consciousness. So, we all have a lot of work to do. Even the disciples who were with Christ, who achieved this, the beginning of the the super consciousness level of consciousness, many, many steps still ahead. So it's a very, very long journey.
Can I add one thing? Have you ever seen the Last Supper of Da Vinci? When we are observing carefully, all disciples and Christ in the middle, we can observe, 3 of them as 1, 2, and in the middle Christ, and then 3 of them, and 3 of them. So 3 by 4, the 12, and the Christ in the middle. Please make sure the Last Supper. So Da Vinci knows, how can I say, describe the hidden principle of the universe in that drawings as the disciples and the Christ.
Okay. His second question says, I'm currently reading Swimming with the Whale again, and a sentence Daniel wrote about the introspection process caught my eye. It says we are not to make excuses about our behavior and not to condemn ourselves or others for less than desirable behaviors. In doing this process, I feel fairly comfortable with the not making excuses part, but I particularly struggle with not condemning others, especially if in my introspection I feel aggrieved by being impacted by their less than desirable behaviors. What guidance can you give how to navigate? Almost anything we come across, any problem we face in life, the 7 promises of the researcher of truth are the answer. If you just take those out and try to apply it to the thing, your problem, you'll start to see the guidance in what to do. So in this case, we want to refer to the one that says that we are to love. It's a promise we made, that we promise to love and serve our fellow human beings from the depths of our heart and soul, no matter what their behavior is to us. Now, why? I mean, it's obviously noble, right? But it's very practical too. Because just think about this. If you're doing introspection and you feel aggrieved, that means you're doing it wrong, because you're in the personality. You're in the egotism that's feeling aggrieved, because it's the egotism that feels aggrieved. And it's the egotism that wants to make excuses for itself or for its behavior. So when you're caught in it like that, you're not in that detached witness that we recommend you proceed through your introspection with. Then you can see that person's behavior to you, and okay, it hurt you, but why did they do it? Or you try to see a bigger thing than just, oh, I'm wounded from this guy's stupidity. So try to get yourself out of the center point and get to the point of the principle of that promise, to love and serve others no matter what their behavior is. That's a very hard one. I think that's probably one of the hardest one of the 7 promises. But it's absolutely necessary. Why? Because it unseats the egotism that would make excuses for behaviors and condemn others for their grievous behaviors. So we just don't want to indulge in that, because that's just feeding egotism. And it takes a while, but if you if you create that detachment in there, you'll be able to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
Hi, Jabro. I think we answered this question before. Okay, but okay, if, maybe we might answer in a different way. So I would like to make my comment. The definition of introspection is we try to observe everything from the viewpoint of our permanent personality. That is our goal. So when you kind of feel offended or feel kind of aggrieved, influenced, contaminated, disturbed your mind in your introspection, which means you need to step back more inwardly towards your permanent personality, to see everything, to observe everything from that state. So in a simple word, when you get feel offensed or disturbed or aggrieved or whatever, once you feel that way in your introspection, you are not observing everything from the state of permanent personality. You are watching it by your present personality. So, but it's not a fault or anything. It's one step. So when you notice yourself, I'm so offended in your introspection, when you feel that way, one more step back. Try to see your present personality, which is offended, which is aggrieved. I'm so offended by that. But with a calm state, complete calm state, try to watch your present day personality, which is aggrieved. This is another step. First, as Daniel says, it's difficult. But when we get used to, when we repeatedly try to gain this state, one day it's easy for you. I'm offended right now, but my real self is not the one which is offended. So you can have both at the beginning and slowly assimilate your self-awareness into your inner self. This is the highlight of the introspection. So please try. But at the beginning, when we feel offended by the manner of someone else, teaching says this way. First of all, please remember, as a human being, the development or evolution as a human being, or for all human beings, the path of the evolution as a human being, and all the programs, the stations are same for all people, all human beings. But each one of us has free will, so our reaction is different. We have each different reaction for the problem which we have to overcome as a human being. That's why we will create such a variety of expression in the world of existence, right? So teaching says first of all, remember, we are on the same path, but depends on reaction and free will and how we react to it. We have many different stages and expressions. So when we see someone who is not maybe developed fully yet, think this way. Oh, I myself had that period in the past. And when we see someone ahead of us, very developed, instead of feeling jealous or, you know what I mean? Instead of feeling jealous or kind of agitated by their existence, instead of that, we can be like him or her. We will be able to express like him or her someday, because we are on the same path towards self-realization. So this is how I learned from this teaching. I hope it helps your understanding.
Next one is from Jeff. Hey, Jeff. Hi, Daniel and AKI. Thank you for hosting these sessions. They are so valuable. My question is regarding Edgar Cayce. I recalled his name being referenced in one of the older Q&A sessions, but not sure if Cayce is considered reliable or not. For instance, there's a book about life of Jesus based on Cayce's readings of the Akashic Records. But when I compare it line by line to Daskalos' Joshua Emanuel book, while some big picture themes are similar, such as Jesus growing up under the guidance of the Essenes and his time in Egypt, nearly all the specifics, such as names, events, are completely different with no matches that I see. What are we to make of Cayce? Was he well-intentioned but misled by what he thought he saw in the Akashic Records? Thanks again for your insight. Many blessings to you and all the researchers of truth. Yeah. Reading the Akashic Records, it's not just exactly the same for everybody, because everybody brings their own filters, their own levels of interest to it. An analogy could be said is like if you had 3 people who could read the Akashic Records, it would be like taking 3 people to a park and letting them walk around for an hour and then come back and say, "What'd you see?" Well, if it was a little boy, he was going to see maybe ducks on the pond. Or a mature man might see beautiful women, I don't know, or food or something. An old man might see a place to rest, I don't know. But they're all going to see something different based on their levels of interest. So that's why a lot of these readings that we hear, they've got to the Akashic Records, they're not exactly the same because they're not perfectly pure. Another analogy that's even, I think, more accurate than that is back in the days of the Voyage of Discovery. All these sailors came out and traveled around North America, right, and South America. And they all had map makers with them. And those map makers drew maps of the real territory. They all drew maps of the same identical territory. But when they got back to Europe and compared maps, none of them matched each other. And it's for the same reason. They all saw things differently according to their interests and perceptions. So some of this is true, too, of course, about the Akashic Records, especially time. I mean, when you read the Akashic Records, it's not like you're reading a book or watching a movie. You are in the scenes, and there's no calendar pages flapping by. So the reader has to kind of know some things about the history of Earth and mankind and be able to place what he's reading in a time period that seems to match his understanding. So there's a lot of chance for error in that as well. Times are very, very difficult to get. But it doesn't mean that what they all are seeing isn't real. It's just they interpret it a little different from each other. Now, my personal feeling is that Casey was a very sincere person. But remember, it's not, you say he's reading the Akashic Records. Was he really reading the Akashic Records? In his readings, what did he say? We see it this way. We see this entity doing this. There's a we in there that's telling him information. Now, I think it's those guys who were really accessing the records. And we can't assess how high were they, how pure were they, how good, how accurate were they. You can't tell in that situation. That's why it's kind of dangerous to open yourself to channeling, because you have a source of information that's unverified and its energies are really unknown. So Daskos was always saying, not that you couldn't touch real information, but it's better not to hear it from others, different that way. So I think it's just a matter of that. Again, they're seeing things and they're having to interpret it through what? Well, Casey was getting it, subconsciously in his trance state or his sleep state. But those people were giving it to him. So chances for some discrepancies are high in that situation.
Beautiful. Yes. Have you ever cut the apple vertically like this? Then the cutting surface cross section shows like a torus, right? But when we cut an apple horizontally, it shows like a 5-pointed star and a round on the crossing section. Likewise, depends on how we cut the surface, we perceive, especially in this dimension, we perceive and our perception is different. And through our filter, through their filter, the expression would be different. I would like to share the beautiful words which Daskalos mentions about the teaching, about the truth of universes. Maybe many of you already know it. It's on the introduction book of the Research of the Truth. I would like to recite it. The truth is a brilliant, many-sided diamond. The great light fills this gem, and the colors gleam from every side. Mystics, messengers, sages, and teachers of all ages, races, and beliefs have spoken of a different facet of this common eternal truth. Isn't it beautiful? It shows everything. So truth can be understood in many ways. I feel Edgar Cayce, of course, depends on how much that person achieved self-awareness or self-consciousness. It's going to be different how deep we can understand the truth. But we can understand truth in many facets, many different facets of one truth. So Casey left a lot of good readings and beneficial remedies. My advice here is we are the student of Das Carlos. So once we start to study one teacher, please, don't doubt. Let's not doubt or compare or let it fight with our beliefs. Rather than that, as a student of Das Carlos, please remain in your own study and this teaching system. And once you encounter the different way of saying on the same matter, please observe, as you say, this part and this part is overall it's same, but detail is different. You mentioned that. So please observe the essence of a common component and integrate, go deeper of what they say and hit the deeper truth of harmonizing with our teaching and integrate in yourself the common part, harmonious part into your truth. And still, if you have a question to ask one aspect, remain in that condition and ask your angel or hold this question in you, having a question in you, without fighting, without criticizing. Casey says, Robert says this way, that way. This is not art. No, please stop the fighting condition. But absorb and try to integrate everything to know the deeper truth, because truth is one. And then hold it for a while, asking above to know deeper. Then one day, naturally and spontaneously, you will receive answer from your own angel, or your real self, or your higher entities. So let's flow like this way, without conflicting with the other teachings. This is my advice.
Hi, Sarah. She's asking, what is our natural chakra color? Well, when fully energized, it's white, pure white. When we look at common pictures of chakras as they are depicted in different colors than we practice for the three suns meditation, for example, I notice that we always practice with the pink light in the heart centers. But the pictures I see online or in spiritual books show this center green. During the three suns meditation, are we projecting a different color than our natural color, or are these color chakra books wrong? And okay, first of all, I don't want to say they're wrong. It's just that what they've shown on the internet, they all show the same colors, right? Because they're all drawn from the same one source. It represents the color of the chakras when they're not energized. When they're fully energized, they're brilliant white. And we're working toward being fully energized chakras, so we use colors, more pastel colors. Why? Well, I've shown this before. I can't show it now, but if you take a color wheel and put it in a drill and spin it, the faster it goes, it starts turning toward pastel colors. Now these represent highly energized colors of what a self-realized person's chakras look like. Okay? So we're trying to go to the higher. If you look on the internet, there's just low, non-energized chakra colors. And we can't say they're totally wrong, but there's just a lot more to it than what they've told you on the internet. And the pink light is a good example of that. Pink light is a combination of white light of God and the red light of Michael. And this is really a logoic love. Logoic means self. You know, there's the self-awareness in there. A self-aware love. So, but you know, maybe we could just say, well, think of it differently completely. All the chakras are clear, like a glass. Imagine a glass globe or something. They're all clear, and we put the colors in there. We visualize using the imprinted ether to make that chakra a certain color. Why? Because that creates a certain energy that's healthy and helpful to that center. So, we're using these colors consciously. It's not just that there's one fixed color for every chakra like is put out there on the internet. You want to do that and then I'll go to the next one?
Quickly, because I think I clearly remember we answered this question, maybe last one or last one. So please go back the archive of our recording, probably last one. And do you remember you brought,
Yeah, but it was a different person asking it.
I think that's Sarah. Anyway, it's okay. It's okay. No. Anyway, simply, I would like to answer quickly. Yes, all the colors for chakras in general, it's not wrong at all. It's right. It's okay. It's right to visualize. But in our teaching system, those three colors of the three sounds is the higher vibrating color. So, higher state of the color in each chakra is a divine state. So, please remember, our color is the higher vibrating color, representing the nature of the real self, God.
She's also asking, if time is not linear, can we have an incarnation now and then incarnate back to the Stone Age? No. What's past is past. What's past is past. It's sort of like a recording. That's why I call it a recording in the cosmic consciousness or in the Akashic records. It gets recorded. So we can go visit those things. We can be in there. We can even talk to the people in the event. But we can't even change the tiniest thing. It's just like if you had a video recording of an opera and somebody missed the note. You could go back and watch that again, but you can't change that note being said. It's been done. It's recorded. It's over. So it's not possible to have a incarnation in the past. And why would you want to? I mean, really, think about it. If you go to kindergarten, right, and you pass kindergarten, you don't want to go to another kindergarten. I mean, if say you pass the 8th grade, you don't want to go back to kindergarten, right, in Stone Age. You don't need to, because when your soul incarnated during those periods, it learned the lessons of those periods. So no need to go back and get them again.
Yes, once we are developed, evolved in the spiritual way, especially when we are self-realized, or even on the path, we can go back to wherever or whenever we wish, being in here now. So we can travel any dimensions or any state or any past experiences which is recorded in the Akashic record flexibly at will. But as Daniel says, we can't reincarnate it, going back to the error which is already imprinted in our universal Akashic memory. We can't do that. We can't change a bit of the record which is already imprinted. So this is my answer.
Yeah, life goes forward, never backwards. So We're always moving forward.
And please remember, this lifetime is best of all essences, and out of all essences of all past lives. It seems like some of our past lives is more like developed and more like advanced, but in totality, the present incarnation is our best ever condition, situation. So don't look back or going back to reincarnated. No.
Mika-san is asking, Hi Daniel and
Mika-san.
Aki-san. I hope you are well and happiness. I'd like to ask about something I've been experiencing, which is like a tasting sweetness around the back of my throat, deep heart area for some time. I can taste it when I consciously do deep breathing or meditation, anytime when I'm in a state of oneness. It has become significant experience, and I don't know what it is. First, I thought it's very strange. Tasting this is very strong and sweet like honey. In other ways, it's like an ecstasy of sweet energy you can taste, or some sort of energy expansion. I can't explain it well. I'm wondering what the spiritual meaning of it is, and do other seekers experience it too? Thank you so much. God bless and love always. Yeah, a lot of people experience it. I've had many experiences of it. You know, we have the five senses: sight, sound, taste, but we also have the five super senses. What you're experiencing is just the beginning of this higher super senses in the taste thing. You can also get it in smell. I've smelled beautiful smells that are not in this dimension, but you can smell them just clear as a bell. And the same thing with the taste of the sweetness. Now in India, they call it ambrosia, I believe.
Amrita.
Amrita, right, which is ambrosia, which means ambrosia.
Is that Hindu? The Sanskrit Amrita.
Yeah, Amrita is an Indian word, but it means ambrosia, this divine sweetness, right? So you taste it when it's not, there's nothing on your tongue, there's nothing physical causing you that sensation. It's the beginning of these super senses starting to be developed. And at first they just come randomly, you have no control over them. And over time, you'll be able to learn how to master them and control them, just like you did your material body when you were a kid, or just like you're doing now with your etheric double. One day you'll learn how to master these and use them consciously. And it's just, there's a whole bunch ahead. But yeah, that's what it is. It's a very beautiful sweetness. Now when I was in India, they talked about this, and there was this one place where this miracle was happening, where there was a statue of this guy, had a statue of a goddess, and he was very, very pure, and he prayed to this goddess all the time, and all of a sudden, out of it comes this liquid. Now this is a physical manifestation of it, this liquid, but when you taste it, it had this same taste you're describing. It's this divine nectar, it's what they call it. So welcome it, yeah, be happy for it.
Divine nectar, Amrita. In Sanskrit, it's called. Did you finish?
Apparently, I am. Yes.
Okay. In Sanskrit, it's called Amrita. Amrita. It's a divine nectar. Yes, I do have experiences, and your question gave me an opportunity to introspect when I had an experience, in which condition really I have experiences. So you gave me a good opportunity to meditate on that, and I found a couple of answers from it. Before I talk about my experience, I would like to answer in the material level. When we reach certain level of self-awareness and consciousness, and when our center, the chakra, is activated and fully kind of fully or certain level activated, physically secretion is coming out. Maybe many of us already experienced that when we feel so kind of, when we feel so much love and opening our heart, we feel like our heart center is vibrating, and we can really feel it's kind of opening up, right? And that moment, in the physical level, the secretion is also coming out. So we have many glands along with our body, right? And the amrita is coming out from, how can I say, in my experience, probably depends on the person. Experience might be different, but in my case, it comes from, as you described, the back of the throat, like from the, how do you say, uvula in English. Do you get the meaning of uvula?
Nope.
Really? Something hanging.
You mean your tonsil?
No, it's a uvula. And in Japanese, we can't say that because it's prohibited and announced in public. We have official word in Japanese, slang. But usually we use the slang, which we can't say on the screen. Anyway, in English, uvula, we can see something hanging in most of our throat. And around that area, entire back of the throat, it's spread. And it's really sweet. In my experience, I don't feel the flavor or anything, but it just full of sweetness is coming through on the entire back of the neck. It's very difficult to explain. So I think it's it's relating to coming out of secretion. Of course, it's coming from the as he explained, higher levels, and as the fluid or secretion, it's coming out as the phenomenon. It's really blessings. And when I introspect, when I analyze it, try to analyze when it happens, I think, according to our teaching, all our three centers, main centers, like solar plexus and the heart and the head center, three suns are fully balanced, it comes. In my case, because when I'm irritated or busy mind, when my mind is busy, it never happens. When I feel secured, like a complete calmness and peace, and when I calm down or my thought completely, and then when I feel love and warmness, comfortability in my heart, it comes naturally through my introspection. Well, probably, please, the person who already have the experience, please introspect when it happens. In my case, it's so. And furthermore, I found a good exercise in our teaching system. There is a meditation called Think with Your Heart from Daskalus' meditation. Please try this meditation. When we calm down our thought completely, filled with the golden light in our head center, and when we go deeper and deeper in that state and calming down completely, then the heart center, 6-pointed star, will open up in our heart center. and our solar plexus center is completely calm. In that state, more likely we experience this kind of amrita. Because all chakras in the centers are balanced, aligned with the divine light. So naturally, this secretion comes out. Please try.
Our next one is from Jonas. He's saying Christians seek different spiritual goals. I've connected with a diversity in my life. Most seek to be with Jesus in heaven for eternity and resurrect with him during his second coming. Some Christians seek supersensible powers, psychism or cities. That's a Hindu word. Described as spiritual phenomena. I have read multiple accounts of Christ's life according to psychism, and one of them fully compatible with that of Dasquillus. Oh, none of them fully compatible with Dasquillus. I suspect I have my own unique account if I was psychic enough. Confusing. In the East, cities are considered to be a hindrance to the self-realization. Are they a hindrance? Well, if you get caught up in them, yeah, they are a hindrance. You're not supposed to seek them. They come, but don't get caught up in them. Some Christians seek union with the divine, theosis, or self-realization. Is theosis the same as self-realization? What is the goal of the researcher of truth? To be with Jesus in heaven and resurrect with him? To attain supersensible powers? Self-realization? Theosis? Well, theosis is one of the self-realizations. And when we start on this journey, we have to analyze our present-day personality, which is not the self, but the shadow of the self. So some mistakenly think self-realization is just knowing the little personality self as it is, with all its strengths and weaknesses. But that's not true self-realization, because that's not the true self. That's the shadow self. So in our system, we talk about 3 self-realizations. The first one is when that present-day personality purifies itself enough to become tuned with the inner self, or what Dasquillus calls the permanent personality. That's one. There's another one, when you become attuned with the pure soul self. This is beyond the worlds of existence. This is in beingness. And the third and final, ultimate self-realization is theosis, which Hindus call God realization. So you realize yourself, now you're realizing yourself as one with God. So, but for the researchers in general, just starting off, the first one is just the first self-realization. That's the first main aim. Now, of course, you can have lots of other aims with it. You can want to be with Jesus and all that stuff. But, you know, the researchers don't think about, oh, we want to get out of here. This is a horrible place. We want to get out of here and go be with Jesus in heaven for eternity. It's not the way it works. You can't do that, because we have a destiny to fulfill, being incarnated on earth. And one of that destinies is to help shoulder the burden of the weaker. So we can't just get our own self-realization and say, see you suckers, we're out of here. We have to, and if you do get your own self-realization, immediately you realize everybody's you. So you want to come back and help everybody. So there is no sense of just getting out and getting liberation and forgetting about everybody, other human being. It's more than if your house was on fire and your kids were in the basement. You would run down and go get them. You wouldn't just leave them down there. So that's how we feel when we start to become more spiritually awakened. We realize everybody's us. And what we do to them, we do to ourselves. And what we do to them, we do to God. So once you start getting that, then the whole purpose and the aim of the researchers of truth is to come into life. Not to escape it, but come into life and help those who are suffering. Pretty simple.
Me. You are me.
I thought you knew that.
I am you.
I've got some changes to make.
But it's ultimately so. Naturally, when we feel, oh, he's me, I Once it happens, it's really self-realization.
Yeah, and the proof of that, that is the truth, is that just think about it. When you hear a story of some horrible thing happening to children in Gaza, right, or Palestine, I mean, and you see that story, don't you suffer a little bit? That's proof positive that we are co-substantial in a way with one another. We're not individual personalities and we seem so separate, but ultimately we're not. We're all part of this common selfhood. Mm-hmm. And what happens to one happens to us all. Where one goes, we all go.
Beautiful. Done?
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Jonah. Yes. In Eastern teaching, it's called a siddhi, and in the Western teaching, I don't know how do you call it, phenomenon. Power. Ability. Yes, it's same. Especially in our teaching system, we don't seek the power or ability, of course, no. In the old age, ancient, all the time, they need this kind of magical power. In Eastern teaching, it's called the siddhi, the power of ability to know higher state or power or whatever. But now we have beautiful teachings to cleanse ourselves, cleanse our present-day personality, and little by little ascend the ladder of the self-realization. So why not to take this safe and steady and for sure path to reach to God in us? It's like aiming to attack the Mount Everest, like a high mountain. You know, when we are walking on the path to the very high mountain, I used this analogy before. But according to this phenomenon, okay, on the way to reach to the summit, if we find beautiful, for example, beautiful flower field, and we are so much attracted by it, and we feel like, oh, this is my place. And if we wish, for example, to gather the flower, to buy the land of that flower field, and try to create our house, and try to start a business to sell the flower or take a picture showing people how beautiful that flower field is. This is what really happening when we have intense phenomena, very high experiences. We would like to talk about it, we would like to show about it, we would like to show the skill or ability which we think we owned, forgetting our first aim to reach the highest of all. So it's dangerous, but we don't need to deny all our experiences. We should analyze whatever happened in our daily life, on our spiritual path, but please observe them. Observe whatever happened, negative or positive, or very high or low. Please keep observative state as the phenomena without forgetting our ultimate aim to remember God in us, to reach to the highest of all, the summit of the mountain, and our first aim of this journey. This is the most important thing. And likewise, climbing up the high mountain, when we go slowly, step by step, raising the altitude, we don't get sick. We don't get the altitude sickness. Sometimes when we go too high, beyond our ability of our bodies, we have to come back to adjust our body. Otherwise, in some case, we die in the worst case, right? Likewise, it's so dangerous to have the experience. It's okay to have the intense, transcendental experience. It happens sometimes. But when we come back to our normal state, and if our normal state and our bodies are not fully cleansed yet, or in other words, our bodies are not ready to receive this tremendous light enough, then we will lose our health in all levels, in all three bodies. So there is a danger. So step by step, and raise the altitude, and reach the top of the summit one day. And when on the process of climbing up naturally like this, we will gain the power and the ability as a kind of side how do you say, a side product, naturally. This is how these teachings are saying to all of us.
Finally, we have a question from Amy. Hello, thank you for these Q&A sessions.
Sorry, I didn't answer to her last question. What is the goal of the research of truth? May I continue a little bit?
Sure, if you want to.
It's Jonah, his question. Jonah, what is the goal of the researchers of truth? What I understand for your question is, as it says in our prayer, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Daniel mentioned a little bit. Of course, our aim is to reach self-realization, of course. But it's not that. It's not only that. Once we reach that state, we just express through us to the world and to the people. That's the aim of the researchers of truth. So, thy will be done. Divine will is done on earth means in here as it is in heaven through us. This is how I understand the aim of ultimate aim of the research of the truth, to share the divinity to the world and also with people in the world. And your next question, to be with Jesus in heaven and resurrect with him? That's your question. And my answer is, rather than that, to be Christ in heaven. To be Christ in heaven and resurrect him in us. Resurrect him within us.
Okay, Amy's asking, is there there's a phrase that some people use when they're referring to veil thinning. Veil thinning. I presume they're talking about the vibrational differences between the psychic world and the psychonoetic world. Is veil thinning an actual thing that happens, or is it just a phrase that was used by other people and others started repeating it? Well, first of all, let's clarify. We mentioned the vibrational difference between the psychic world and the psychonoetic world. This is a little misstated because I think you mean psychonoetical worlds, because the noetic is a state beyond the worlds of existence. And when we say psychical world and noetical world, we just separate them so that to talk about them, to understand them separately, so we can talk about them separately, but they're not separate. That's when you hear us say psychonoetical worlds, we're talking about them all as one, because they're there together. As long as you're have a mental body, a noetical body, you have, I mean, as long as you have a psychical body, you have the noetical body automatically with it at all times. When the psychical body is aborted in what's called the second death, then we, as a self-awareness, transfer over fully to the noetical plane and just use our noetical body. But initially, when we talk about the next realm beyond here, it's psychonoetical. Just like right now, we also have the psychonoetical body within and around our material body. So these are all three nested together. So the veil, what is the veil? Well, it's just another word of saying shell. We talk about shell hells and shell paradises, which are composed by what? Elementals. So we have a bunch of negative, destructive feelings and thoughts. We create a veil that's very thick and heavy. Then when we purify ourselves and we drop our negativity and emanate more love, then that shell gets thinner. So in other words, the psychical veil is thinned. And that's the goal. It's like we want to clean ourselves and purify ourselves so we can really actually experience these other states that we've been talking about and that's talked about in these teachings. But to do that, we have to really thin the veil. And that just means purifying your thoughts and feelings and behaviors. So it's an actual thing.
Maybe should I answer at
Yeah,
this
go
point?
ahead.
Because she has another question.
Okay.
Okay, Amy. Hello, Amy. Yes. The more light is pouring down on Earth right now, and once we open up, and once we develop a self-consciousness, then yes, the veil between the worlds actually, and the state will be borrowing this word, it's getting thinner. In other words, it's for us to, it's going to be easier for us to perceive, of course, but move around flexibly at will, as I mentioned in the last question. We can, how can I say, transit or travel or go wherever we wish, or which period we wish, which dimension we wish, which state we wish we can go. If our self-awareness and consciousness is developed and ascended, which means that the more light, when we are filled with more light, it's going to happen naturally. So it's truth. But in the universal law, all world and all state are strictly and perfectly created and maintained by the law. So unless we overcome, or in other words, unless we cleanse all our centers, unless we develop our self-consciousness enough, we can't do that. Even if we developed it well enough, the kind of, how they say, separation of each word and each vibration is perfectly maintained. What we need to do and what we train ourselves is cleanse our present-day personality well enough to go beyond, to go over the control of this, go beyond this role flexibly, overcoming our present-day personality. So it is possible, as I said before, sitting here right now, we can go anywhere, any dimension. The veil is thin or almost there's no veil, but it's flexibly. We can go anywhere flexibly without any hindrance or prohibition. But we have to cleanse ourselves. We do that in our seminar, right? When we reach that state, we call it Hermes Trismegistus. We can go wherever we wish to at will. But we have to cleanse our present-day personality to make it possible. We provide a seminar.
Mm-hmm. You see, this is the same as your material body diet, and you as the self-awareness passing over to any subplane that you're in harmony with. It's not the highest heaven, for sure. You're going to be in the lower heaven when you pass over, and it's going to be associated with those things you were harbored and expressed in the material world, right? So anybody that passes over finds himself in a shell that their own creating at a subplane in the psychic world they're most in harmony with. Just as much light as you can tolerate, not too much to cause you a problem. Like if you're suffering, for example, and it's like a convalescent thing in the hospital. They dim the light so that you can heal better. So each of the subplanes has just the right amount of light for you to continue on and progress. And in that subplane, you are surrounded by your cells, your psychonoetical shell. How big is it? It can be a house, it can be a city, it can be the whole planet. It depends on you. You create it. So when you're in there, it's, let's say you've had trouble on Earth, and so you end up in this maybe not the highest subplane of the psychic world, and there you continue on with the same life, same name, same interest. Everything's pretty much the same, except the laws now are different in this world. And at any moment in time, one of these people can look up and see the real psychical plane around them, but they don't, because they're so caught up in their shell. They're habituated to the way they think, feel, their desires, their interests. All this stuff creates the shell, and we are habituated of seeing that. So we'd have to really shake ourselves and come up out of it to be able to see the true psychical plane around it. But there are helpers there that help us try to do that. So
it's all about cleansing our three bodies.
Second question, is there any particular effect on any energetic level when things like solar eclipse happens, either intentionally or unintentionally? As you know, a lot was made of the recent solar eclipse and potential effects which didn't really appear to come to fruition. Relatedly, was there any significance in NASA sending rockets into the eclipse being called Apep, which is the god of destruction in Egyptian, a god of chaos. It's also a snake god. Interestingly enough, Aki were standing right outside when we were looking at the solar eclipse, and there's this noise behind us, and this, I don't know, 2 meter or bigger snake crawled right behind us. So we were wondering if there was some connection too. But really what was happening, it was getting so dark, all the animals were going back to their homes. The day bird stopped chirping, and the night frogs started peeping, and I don't know what they could possibly get out of firing rockets into the eclipse, into a shadow. I don't know what they got. I've never heard them announce it either, but I know what you're talking about. But there are energetic effects. When the moon comes close, it's an energetic effect. When the eclipse happens, the planets are lining up, but it doesn't have hardly any effect on the human being. What has the most effect on the human being are their own elementals. So you could be in a situation where there's an energized planetary event happening, and one person can feel very creative and inspired, and the other person can get negative. And that's all based on their elementals that are getting stimulated by this effect. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. As I mentioned in this session a couple of times, yes, of course, whatever existing here, including us, including the planet, our planet, everything is being influenced by the solar power, the power of the sun, the power of other planets, and the power of the other stars around us. And the planet and everything is created and even maintained, and we are developing according to that energy in perfect balance and harmony. So, of course, a solar eclipse will influence us, as you say, intentionally or unintentionally, which means artificially, kind of as a phenomena which man-made phenomena, or naturally, the divine made. How can I say? But it depends on where we focus on, which vibration or which phenomena or which event we really focus on. As he explained, our psychoanalytical shows, if we have a lot of fear or full of the knowledge of human, man-made, how do I say? Influence or event. If we focus on that, we create a certain psychoanalytical show. We are the research of the truth. Of course, we have a right to know the truth, what's going on in the world. But we also have a choice to know beyond all man-made things. Divine is always perfect. Divine is perfectly above or including all phenomena in the world of duality. We should not forget about this. And so even NASA, you mentioned about NASA and other kind of project or scheme or whatever, it's up to us to know man-made phenomena. Of course, we need to know the truth of it, but we also need to know the truth above it. And planetary logos. Planet is living too, as we know. Planetary logos knows each one of us fully, completely. So, which means this consciousness knows and balancing everything. And it knows, this consciousness knows each person or each person living on this planet. Which means what? Let's meditate on that. My advice and answer is to know all events is important, but let's know higher state, to know the truth of truth. Then we can stand strong and live and overcome this period, for sure. For that purpose, we are studying this teaching.
Amen. Okay, everybody. Well, thank you for joining us today. We'll be back again with more questions and answers.
Yes.
Next month.
Yes. I would like to say something. Yes, we are a little bit behind providing Q&A these days, but we got back normal. I had someone who I really wanted to help, and during the whole winter, I worked for her, and then I back to the normal state, and he back to the normal state, so we can provide our service back to normal, back in normal.
I'm not sure that's true. Back to normal?
back to normal. Like
I don't
the
feel
case.
we ever going on.
Q&A was a little
Yeah,
behind.
yeah,
So
that
thank
part,
you for
yeah.
understanding and being patient.
Okay, see you next time. Get your questions ready. All right. Blessings.
Bye. See you next